I want to move on now. Let's talk about the ongoing war in Ukraine. A Russian commander this week was quoted as saying that Russia can't defeat the NATO bloc in Ukraine without using nuclear weapons. February will be 12 months since this conflict started. Do you believe that nuclear weapons are a possibility still as we head into the new year?
Absolutely. Danica, this is the 60th anniversary of the Cuban Missile Crisis. And in that crisis, the Russians had, I think, 51 tactical nuclear weapons on the island that they got there and got off without anyone knowing. And we know about it later on through conferences that took place. They had all these weapons, and they were under the command of the theater commanders there, that is, the head local commanders, who could have used them. There'd have been no call to the Kremlin at 3 o'clock in the morning. And they had worked out a figure that I've seen, and that when the odds were 10-1 against them in terms of conventional weapons, when they were outnumbered by men, tanks, and all the rest of it, they reserved the right to use tactical nuclear weapons, as indeed all the nations today who have tactical nuclear weapons. So I don't think the Russians would hesitate to use a tactical nuclear weapon, particularly when those Patriot missiles start to arrive in Ukraine. They're going to say that the odds against them are 10-1. They can't. It's not a fair fight anymore. They don't think this has been a fair fight. They think that Germany and France betrayed them in the Minsk Agreement a couple of years ago, and that they were double-crossed by the United States on the balance of terror, or the balance of nuclear terror in that part of the world. So, they've got nothing to lose. And I think the tip-off to me is, and this is a big deal, is that there's only one remaining nuclear agreement, Danica, between Russia and the United States. It's a START agreement, and the Russians recently called off negotiations, and the Americans had no answer to that. And so we got this lost art of making nuclear treaties at a time when we have the two remaining great superpowers, and they both have thousands of nuclear weapons, strategic weapons, as well as tactical weapons, to do a great deal of damage. So, when you're not negotiating, and you don't trust your former friends, that's France and Germany, I reckon, you're going to roll the dice, particularly if the Russians sense for a minute, Danica, that the Americans have given the Ukrainians the green light to attack deep into Russian territory. And keep in mind, it's only 450 miles or 800K between the Ukrainian border and Moscow. So it doesn't take much for a missile to get there and knock out Mr. Putin in his sleep. So he knows that. The lead time now is about 10 minutes. So they have real concerns. And as I say, we're trying to figure out how to keep them on side. At the end of the day, I think we're going to have a negotiated settlement, but not before Ukraine has been smashed to pieces. It's going to cost about 70, 80 trillion bucks just to put the place back together. And I think we paid a very high price for this war so far.
Yeah, we certainly have already. Joe Siracusa, we need to leave it there. Thank you for joining us.
Okay, thank you.